sunshine! Hoo-hoo!
This video is sponsored by Squarespace, helping you bring your business to life through amazing, intuitive websites you can build yourself. 3 years ago, I kicked off a series not far from the place we're covering today. Pixel Portals was born upon Gelato Beach, and it's been quite the trip. So I thought it makes sense to revisit the game that started it all, Super Mario Sunshine. Of all the areas in the game, there was one that was more magical than the rest. Obviously, the prospect of an oceanside adventure was right up my alley, but only one place had a world that was blanketed in shadow during a bright summer day. A place with secret hideouts in the cliffs, and a book hidden at the bottom of the sea. And that was Noki Bay. Now, all my life, I've been calling Noki Bay Nookie Bay, and you can probably imagine how that's gone. Thankfully, some chaps pointed out on a previous video, so now I'm totally in the clear. Noki Bay is honestly such a cool level just due to how large it really is. While most levels are more wide, Noki Bay is both wide but also super tall. For as tall as its rocky walls climb, it's equally just as deep. This scale is what makes the level so interesting. And there are instance missions that take us to some pretty remarkable areas. Areas that sort of paint a greater mystery to this whole chipper and peaceful level. But let's rewind for a second and go back up to the surface. This level in particular features ancient ruins scattered all throughout the land. Ruins that we don't really ever learn a whole lot about. If we boot up episode 2, the boss of Tricky Ruins, the old Noki fisherman tells us that Noki Bay's greatest secret is actually that it contains the tomb of an ancient Noki king. For some reason, the walls in the area react to water and recede into the cliffside magically when sprayed. We eventually enter this tomb that is behind the waterfall later on in the mission. What's interesting is that in episode 4, we learn that the far bottom of the seabed is actually the ancestral home of the Nokis. The enormous set of ruins down here must have been their metropolis at some point when the entire Noki population existed underwater. Obviously, people left this location due to the poisonous water that had gathered on the surface. And in the final chapter, we can see people have returned. But all of this is still quite neat. It sets up this entire level for a neat backstory that we never really get to hear about. What was the Noki population like in the past? How many people resided in these ruins? What kind of magic was cast upon the walls to make them respond to water? There's quite a lot of mysteries that are unanswered. And to top things off, we of course have a dimensional portal that randomly opened in one of the shell buildings on episode 6. As the old Noki fisherman states, Noki Bay hides a ton of secrets within its tower and cliffside. And we're only really getting started. By now, you've probably heard about a mysterious book that is trapped within a set of ruins inside the giant bottle. This alone could have gone in the mystery section of this video, but since it involves something hidden from sight, I thought it'd be more fitting to highlight here. Many people believe this book, which is in episode 3's Red Coins in a Bottle mission, actually used to be the true goal of the original episode. Instead of gathering red coins here to train yourself for the upcoming eel encounter, the old man more than likely wanted to send you on a fetch quest for this book hidden inside of the ruins. This whole ordeal is odd though because someone would have had to have built these ruins in the first place, inside a super small bottle. And that alone is mysterious since the purpose is unknown. If Mario clips to the wall and tries to collect the book, nothing of course happens. It's an asset left behind by a developer that just sort of lingers here. But while we're in this bottle, let's talk about the bottle in general. What's interesting about this bottle is that the bottle itself actually isn't full of normal water as we know it in Super Mario Sunshine. In underwater instances that don't have a surface, Mario actually moves differently and is loaded with a nozzle that affects his movement capabilities. It's pretty much the fourth secondary nozzle of the game, although it looks like the standard hover nozzle. What's interesting is that no matter how far you move out of bounds, whether you spawn Mario outside the giant bottle or outside the ancient underwater city, Mario will always be swimming and losing air. The entire map itself is water, and no real surface exists. In the bottle example, Mario gets frozen when pushed outside of bounds, and he can only sit there until he drowns. I go into this in greater detail in another video over on Swanky Zone, and we even get to see what the entire off-limits level is like when we aren't forced into the bottle right away. It has some pretty odd things. Swinging back over to episode 2, it's possible to make the boss fall into the ancient ruins if Mario travels out of bounds and enters the ruins from behind, forcing him to clip back into the level. With rocket storage, or if you're utilizing a height modifier modifier or moon jump code, Mario can actually smash the block beneath the boss from underneath him. The boss prevents Mario from touching the box until it is normally defeated, but if smashed from below, the boss plummets to the ruins because it no longer has a block to stand on. This creates a pretty neat situation where you can battle the boss inside the ruins. I did this as a kid with Action Replay, but my buddy DGR actually tackled the challenge with the rocket storage glitch, and achieved a similar result. Now, the remaining discoveries for this area all have to do with going to places you're not supposed to be at. There's tons of off-limits areas in this stage, and that's what made it so awesome to explore with Action Replay codes back on the Nintendo GameCube years ago. One of the places I always wanted to check out but never could was actually the true seafloor of Noki Bay. You'd run out of air too fast to satisfy your curiosity, and I want to stay down there for longer than Mario could hold his breath. There's so much to see down here. With the ability to grant myself infinite air, I loved exploring it. And it's pretty neat to finally be able to swim along the pitch black seafloor and see these objects up close. With another cheat, we can even restore Mario's walking animation down here and check out the place on foot. On the other side of the spectrum, we of course have the tallest parts of the cliffside above Noki Bay. What's interesting about the upper parts of this level is that there's a huge invisible wall that prevents you from actually jumping up there. However, if you go over it, there's actually quite a lot you can explore on foot. If you head too far out though, you'll fall through the map, and if you're not careful, you might instantly die. Falling through the map allows you to swim inside the walls of the bay though, and it's a pretty cool experience. Alongside this, if you fall off at the right spots, you can actually land inside the carved out ruins that are supposed to expand if hit by water. It's like a sealed room that you can only enter from behind. Back up top though, the walkable region spans across the entire cliffside for quite a while. Near the area above the ruins though is a place I used to call home. There's an area where the map's model and collision do not align, which allows Mario to actually enter the hillside to explore. The collision continues on as a flat floor, while the map itself actually continues to move upwards. And this creates a hidden room where Mario can stand freely at the tallest point on the entire map. Honestly, this was one of my favorite areas, and it certainly hits me right in the nostalgia when I stand here today. Super Mario Sunshine was a game I used as a giant sandbox, figuratively, and I guess also literally because the whole thing took place on beaches. When the game was done, it was time to run around and just have fun. And this was only amplified once I got an Action Replay for the GameCube. Now I could run faster, jump farther, and gain access to areas I never could have before. This device breathed new life into all the games I knew and loved. And Super Mario Sunshine was actually the first game I tried it out on. And I remember how many hours of entertainment it provided. Obviously, with the ability to jump higher than I ever could before, I'd naturally make my way to the tallest level I could think of, and that was Noki Bay. I'd jump and fall out of bounds, explore the bottom of the ocean, and discover things I never knew existed. So let's rewind back to that whole hidden room thing I left off of in the last section. That's precisely how I found this spot. And in this spot, I had the ability to see everything I wanted. I was on top of the world in a seaside fort that I believed no one but me had been in before. And it was kind of profound, honestly. The mind of a kid wanders especially when there's something they want. And I always wanted to go to the ocean. For those who watched the very first episode of the series, I'm sure I made that pretty clear. That feeling never went away, and that room at the top of the cliff reminds me of this strongly. The other memory that comes rushing back for this area is of course summertime. Noki Bay had a different feeling than the other levels because the entire area was pretty much in shadow. It made me think of all those cool coastal cliffs I had seen on the Discovery Channel. The first time we were playing through Super Mario Sunshine, I remember my older brother had just unlocked Noki Bay for the first time, and I was super eager to see what it had to offer. Unfortunately, I was also on grass cutting duty, and we had a huge untamed yard in the countryside. So for the next hour and a half, I was riding around on a lawnmower, bouncing up and down, as I tried to power through this yard as fast as I could. I remember it fondly because it was summertime, with the sun starting to fall in the sky. I rushed back inside as fast as I could because the entire time, I spent thinking about the newest level in the game. Times were simpler back then. I was a kid, and the only obligations I had were chores. Summer represented complete freedom, and Super Mario Sunshine only amplified that with its tropical beach environments. For a kid who never got to see the ocean growing up, that meant everything. This bay level felt more introverted than the other areas because of the shadows that were casted across the land. It felt colder, but in some ways offered an entirely different experience than the other levels visually. The music is one of my favorite tracks within the game too, because it felt both adventurous but also relaxing. Even though the entire area was polluted and in need of dire help, you never lost that sense of wonder the level contained. I'd peer on out and see all these tall structures that I'm sure people lived in, and it made me wonder if I'd ever own a seaside home. Would a child's dream of a secret house fixed upon a cliff ever be a reality? Who knows, honestly. But that's why Noki Bay will forever be one of my pixel portals. But now that I've shared all that, what are your experiences with this level? Any fond memories? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sponsorships help out a ton, so I want to thank Squarespace for supporting me with my deep dives into video games. Many years ago, prior to doing YouTube, I actually did freelance web design, and if I had something like Squarespace back then, my life would have been way easier. The slick templates they have allow you to design eye-catching, stunning websites to promote your business or side hustle in just the right way. They make it easy so you can create the online presence of your dreams without having to understand all the coding you'd normally need. So, ready to create your new website? Make it with Squarespace and get 10% off your first Squarespace order with offer code SwankyBox. You can find an offer link in the description below. And I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. And with that, thanks for tuning in for this Bayside tour. Perhaps one of these videos will tickle your fancy. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.